Hello, everyone. I'm going to give everybody a quick second to come into the webinar so that we can have everybody here. All right, I think we're good. So again, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for being with us today for our program, The Choice to Reconcile, as part of our Taking Action Together series. My name is Lisa Bachman, and I am the Executive Director of the Alabama Holocaust Education Center. We owe a huge thank you to Larry and Cinda Goldberg, Jeffrey and Gail Baer, and Ronnie and Donald Hess for their incredible sponsorship of this program. I also need to say a huge thank you to my dear friend Ted Haddock, who introduced me to the team at the Parent Circle who made today's program possible. A few quick housekeeping items. Our speakers will be saving time at the end of their presentation to answer your questions. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see a small button that says Q&A. Please click on that button to submit your questions, and we'll be reminding you throughout the program of that as well. And this program is also being recorded, and we hope that you will share it with any friends who are not able to attend today's program. We are also very happy to provide these programs at no cost. And if you enjoy the program, we would greatly appreciate a donation of any size that will enable us to help to continue providing these programs and this important content. You can visit our website to easily make a gift, and we also will put a link in the chat. So let's get started. We all know that Holocaust education has a very profound impact on people, and this is no exception for our speakers today. Bassam Aramin lives in Jericho in the West Bank. He learned about the Holocaust at age 17. While he was incarcerated in an Israeli jail, he saw the film Schindler's List, and it moved him to tears and set his life on a new course. He went on to study history and holds an MA in Holocaust Studies from the University of Bradford in England. He became a member of the Parent Circle in 2007 after losing his 10-year-old daughter, Abir, who was killed by an Israeli border policeman in front of her school. Bassam devotes his time and energies to his convictions for a peaceful, non-violent end to the Israeli occupation of Palestine and to Israeli-Palestinian reconciliation. Bassam is the former Palestinian co-director of the Parent Circle Families Forum, and he is the current international spokesperson. Rami Elhanan is a seventh-generation Jerusalemite. He identifies himself as a Jew, an Israeli, and before everything else, a human being. On the first day of the school year in 1997, Rami's daughter, Smadar, was killed by two Palestinian suicide bombers who murdered 5 people that day. Soon after, Rami joined the Parent Circle, and he speaks before Israeli, Palestinian, and international audiences. Rami is the former Israeli co-director of the Parent Circle Families Forum. Rami and Bassam's unique perspective stems from their ability to engage in open dialogue despite their differences. This willingness to listen and respect each other, even when they disagree, is a powerful lesson drawn from the Holocaust, where the consequences of divisiveness and intolerance were painfully evident. By sharing their stories of loss and their path to reconciliation, Rami and Bassam offer valuable insights into the importance of understanding, empathy, and communication. They demonstrate that while disagreements may arise, it is possible to find common ground and to foster mutual respect. Today, you might hear something you don't disagree with. We are living in a world marked by increased polarization and division. It is my hope that the example set by Rami and Bassam will serve as a reminder of the transformative power of dialogue and understanding. Their willingness to engage with each other despite their differences exemplifies the potential that we have for healing and reconciliation, even in the most challenging of circumstances. As we listen to their stories, I ask you all to please listen with open hearts and open minds, ready to learn from their experiences and take away ideas that can help us navigate our own paths towards understanding and unity. Through their example, I hope we can all find inspiration to bridge divides, build connections, and strive for a more harmonious world. We will open for questions. Again, please put them in the chat at the end of their talks. And now I would like to turn the program over to Rami.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you all for taking the time, the effort, and the energy to listen to us. We are honored. This guy on my right, this strange-looking guy, the Palestinian terrorist, is my brother, my dear brother, Bassam Aramin. And in so many ways, he's the closest person to me on earth. He's much closer to me than many of my own people, many of my own family. And what makes us so close is the price that we both have paid as an outcome of this ongoing conflict between our two nations. We share the same kind of pain. We don't need words to understand each other. For me, Bassam is a leader. I look up to him. I admire him. And I take a lot of strengths out of him and my other brothers and sisters, Israelis and Palestinians, members of this unique organization of ours, which is known by the name of the Parents Circle, the Israeli-Palestinian Bereaved Families for Peace, which is probably the only organization on earth that does not seek new members. My name is Rami Elhanan. I'm 74 years old, graphic designer, living in Jerusalem. I was born in Jerusalem, seventh generation. My mother was born in the old city of Jerusalem, an ultra-Orthodox Jewish family. My father came to this country in 1946 after spending 1 year in Auschwitz. He was very badly wounded in the 48 war. She was the nurse that took care of him. And this is the reason why I'm able to speak to you right now. I am a Jew, I'm an Israeli, and before anything else, I am a human being. And the story I'm about to tell you now starts and also ends on one particular day of the Jewish calendar, which is known by the name of the Yom Kippur. You know, Yom Kippur is the holiest day for the Jews. This is the day where we ask forgiveness for our sins. On this very day, 50 years ago, I was a very young soldier fighting this horrible October 73 war. We started it with a company of 11 tanks. We finished it with only 3. I've lost over there in the desert of Sinai across the Suez Canal some of our very close and best friends. And I came out of it a very angry and disappointed young man with one determination: to detach myself from any kind of involvement or commitment. I got out of the army. I went to Bezalel Art School to become a graphic designer. I met my wife, I got married, and I had 4 kids. And 40 years ago, on the very eve of Yom Kippur, September 1983, my daughter was born in Hadassah Hospital in Jerusalem. Her name was Smadar. The name Smadar is taken from the Bible, the Song of Solomon. It means the grape of vine, which means the opening of the flower. And she really was a very sparkling and joyful and energetic little girl. She was very beautiful. She was an excellent student. She was a swimmer. She was a dancer. She played the piano. She was amazing. Everybody used to call her the princess. And we lived a very good life in our house in Jerusalem. My wife, which is a professor for education in the Hebrew University, my 3 boys, in this princess, in what seemed to be the perfect sheltered, protected lives. In so many ways, you could say that we put ourselves inside a big bubble, completely detached from the outside world, minding our own business. I was doing graphic design for the right wing, for the left wing, whoever paid me. And life was very comfortable. And this went on until about 26 years ago. On the 4th of September, 1997, just a few days before Yom Kippur, This bubble of ours was blown up to millions of pieces. Two Palestinian suicide bombers, Hamas members, blew themselves up in Ben Yehuda Street in the center of Jerusalem. They killed 5 people that day, including 3 little girls. One of these girls was my 14 years old Svada. It was Thursday afternoon and the beginning of a very long and a very cold night, which continues until today. At first, when you hear about the explosion, you keep hoping that maybe this time this finger will not turn towards you. Gradually, you find yourself running in the streets, trying to find her. She completely disappeared. You go from hospital to hospital, from police station to police station, many long, very frustrating hours, until eventually very late at night, you find yourself in the morgue. And this finger is stuck right between your eyes. And you see this sight, which you will never, ever be able to forget for the rest of your life. Then you come back home. The house is immediately filled with thousands and thousands of people coming to pay respect, to offer condolences. These are the 7 days of the Jewish mourning period. It's called Shiva. And you are kind of enveloped by these thousands of people in a very clever, traditional way that is designed to ease your passage to the new kind of life which expects you. On the 8th day, they go home. Everyone go back to their normal everyday being, and suddenly you are left alone. You need to wake up. You need to stand up and face yourself. And you have to make a decision. What are you going to do now with this new unbearable burden on your shoulders? What are you going to do with this anger that eats you alive from within? And there are only 2 options, 2 ways to choose from. The first one is obvious. When someone kills your 14 years old little girl, you are so angry. And you want to get even, which is natural, which is human, which is the way most people choose, the way of revenge and retaliation, which we see these very days, this way that creates this endless cycle of violence, which never stops. But then after a while, you start to think, we are human beings, we are not animals, and we can use our heads, and you start asking yourself questions. Will killing anyone will bring her back? Will causing pain to someone will ease this unbearable pain? And the answer is certainly not. So a very gradual and complicated process come to the other option, which is much more difficult, trying to understand what happened here. Why did it happen? How could such a horrible thing take place? What can cause someone to be that angry, that mad, that desperate, that hopeless, that he's willing to blow himself up with 14 years old little girl? Do you have some kind of connection to it yourself? Maybe some kind of responsibility? Well, it takes time. It's not easy. At the beginning, you try to go on with your life, pretend as if nothing had happened, go back to my studio, to my normal everyday life. But nothing was normal anymore, and I was not the same person anymore. And about a year later, on some occasion, I met a big man who changed my life completely. His name was Yitzhak Frankenthal. He was a religious Jewish guy, with a big kippah on his head. And you know how we tend to put people into drawers and to stigmatize people. And we judge people by the way they dress, what they put around their necks, on their heads. And I was certain that this guy with the kippah on his head is a fascist and a right-winger, that he eats Arabs for breakfast, and I prepared myself to fight him. And we started talking. He told me about his son, Arik, a soldier who was kidnapped and murdered by Hamas in 1994, and about this organization that he created of Israelis and Palestinians together, people who lost their loved ones and still search for ways for dialogue with each other. And he invited me over to watch a meeting of this group of crazy people. And I said, okay. I was curious. I went to see. It was 25 years ago. I was standing aside, very detached, very reluctant, and very, very cynical, as I always am. And I was watching those people coming down from the buses. And from the buses came down people that for me, as an Israeli patriot, were always living legends. People I used to look up to them. I used to read about them in the newspapers, and I never ever thought that one day I will become one of them, people who lost their loved ones and still search for peace. But then I saw something else, something which was completely new to me, to my eyes, to my mind, to my soul. I was standing there watching the Palestinian bereaved families coming down from the buses, walking towards me, shaking my hand for peace, hugging me, crying with me. And I was so deeply shocked and so deeply moved. You see, I was 47 years old at that time. And until today, I'm ashamed to admit it was the first time ever in my life I have met Palestinians as human beings. Not as workers in the streets, not as terrorists, not as transparent people, as human beings who carry exactly the same burden that I carry, who suffer like I suffer. And I was so moved. I remember seeing this old Arab lady coming down from the buses, coming towards me with this long black traditional Palestinian dress. And she had a picture of a 6-year-old kid on her chest, exactly like my wife carrying the name of our daughter Smadari on hers. I'm not a religious person. I have no way of explaining what happened to me back then, 25 years ago. All I can tell you that from that moment on, until today, I devote my life to go everywhere possible, to talk to anyone possible, people who want to listen, and people who will not listen, to convey this very basic and very simple message, which says we are not doomed. This is not our destiny to keep on killing each other in this holy land of ours forever. It's not written anywhere, and we can change it. And we can break once and for all this endless cycle of violence and revenge and retaliation. And the only way to do it is simply by talking to each other, because it will not stop unless we talk. I believe deeply that one can learn how to listen to the pain of the other. I believe that once you are able to listen to the pain of the other, you can expect the other to listen to your pain. And then, only then, together start this very long journey towards reconciliation. Maybe some kind of peace in the end. It's a very long and bumpy road. There are no shortcuts. But this is the only way possible, because the other way leads to nowhere. And the price of the other way, believe me, is horrible. It's unbearable. So this is what we do at the Parent Circle. We are about 600 families, Israelis and Palestinians. And our common denominator is the understanding that we lost our children. It's because of this abnormal situation in which one people is dominating the other. It is the Israeli occupation, and we must change it non-violently, by speaking to the people, by telling them and showing them there is another way. So we are banging our heads against this very high wall of hatred and fear that divide our two nations today. And we put cracks in it, crack after crack. And through these little cracks, a little light comes in. A little light can drive away a lot of darkness until we will put those walls down, because the alternative is too painful. And we have an enormous ally on our side, which is the power of our pain. And you should know that the power of pain is tremendous. It's very much similar to the nuclear energy. And like this horrible energy, you can use it in order to bring darkness and destruction and pain and death to people. And you can use it in order to bring light, warmth, and hope. So we go around the country. We go from high school to high school. We talk to Israeli kids. We talk to Palestinian kids. And we tell them that our blood is exactly the same color, that our pain is exactly the same pain, and our tears are just as bitter. And if we, who have paid the highest price possible, if we who have every reason on earth to want to kill each other, if we can call each other brother, anyone can, anyone should. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Abu Elik.
Thank you, Abu Arab.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for inviting us. You know, what's the meaning of the Holocaust for a Palestinian kid who born in a cave in a small family? We are 16 brothers and sisters only. Live between the mountains. What's the meaning of the First World War or the Second World War? Nothing. I don't know anything about it. When I moved to the village, started to go to the school, I start to see a very strange soldiers, blonde, and have blue eyes. They are different than us. They don't look like us. And they come to occupy our village or to control our neighborhood. It's very difficult. It was very difficult for me. So briefly, we note that they become crazy when they see the Palestinian flag, and I don't know why. But with other 4 kids at the age of 13, we create a local military group, we call it, and we start raising the Palestinian flag at night at the trees around our school to make them crazy. It was a crime. If they catch you, you go to jail for 6 months to 1 year. But our goal is to make them crazy. It's like a game. But this hatred grows with us. We don't need to understand who's those people. Just they are strangers, they come to control our life, and that's it. So in fact, at the age of 16, we find some old weapons in another cave with 2 grenades and other military materials that we don't know how to use it. But 2 of my friends throw the 2 grenades on the Israeli soldiers, patrols in our village near Hebron. And of course, in that time, no one killed, no one injured because they don't know how to use it in a professional way. And 1 year later, at the age of 17, all of us have been arrested. So the first one gets 21 years in jail, 19, 15, 14, and I had 7 years. In fact, I learned in jail, if you know your enemy, you can defeat him or you can kill him. If you only hate him, you will kill yourself. So in fact, I said I want to kill my enemy and not to myself. So I start to study Hebrew, the language of the enemy, to know how to kill Rami in that time. Sorry, it's not personal, Rami.
I believe.
Then shortly after that, I watch a movie about the Holocaust. So what I know about the Holocaust, someone called Hitler, I don't know from where this Hitler, who killed 6 million Jewish people, but it's a big lie, simply like this. So in spite, it's a big lie for me. I understand this movie is about Hitler and the Jews, and to be honest, I want to enjoy seeing this movie as kind of revenge, to see someone torture them, kill them, arrest them, occupy them, because I am in their jails. What happened after a few minutes, suddenly I found myself simply crying. Get sympathy with those innocent people. It was too difficult for me. I don't expect to see such atrocities in my worst dreams. So I say to myself, it's just a movie and nothing like this in the reality. Because there is no human beings can do the same to other human beings. I cannot understand that because it's against the nature of the human beings. Maybe the most painful thing was, after a few minutes, to see the people, and especially women's, naked. Because according to my culture, to my religion, as a Muslim, as an Arab, it's the most brutal way to treat with people. It's a long story, but I decide that I want to know more about this big lie. If it's really happened or it's just a movie, which led me, as you mentioned, after more than 25 years to make my master degree about the Holocaust in Bradford University in the UK. Then after that, I start to visit death camps in Germany. But for me, it starts as a tool, you know, to know your enemy in order to know how to defeat them or even how to fight them. Then you understand something very basic and very important, which is if you know more, you act much better. If you don't know, simply you don't know. It means you are proud to be ignorance. And to be honest, I discovered that it's much better not to know. Why? Because you always agree with yourself, which is perfect. You are the best in everything, your story, your religion, your whatever. When you start to know something else or different, you start to suffer. In Arabic, we said, because you cannot keep silence. Maybe I'll go back to the time in jail for a few minutes. You can imagine it's a very long 7 years. Briefly, they treat us as killers, terrorists, dangerous people, you know, the bad guys. And for us, they are the bad guys. They are the killers. They are the terrorists. They are the occupiers. They try to kill our humanity every moment. Our mission is to survive in order to continue our struggle against this enemy. This is how we teach each other. And we said they are not our example. We are freedom fighters. This is the difference between us and them. In fact, they never broke us. You just become more determined to continue your way. It means you struggle against those people. When I say people, I mean the Israeli army. Those are the Israelis that the Palestinians meet all the time. So I get released in 1992 after 7 years in jail. 1 year later, suddenly we have peace. Oslo Agreement for the first time between PLO and Israel. And I start to see the same ex-killers, the same ex-terrorists, the bad guys, the Palestinian prisoners. They became generals in the Palestinian security forces. They became the Palestinian Authority, in fact. And they start to meet the Israeli generals and the Israeli government as partners for peace. How come? One day it was an an American political decision. This is the difference only. So I ask myself why I spent 7 years in jail just to shake hands with those occupiers. I can do it without going to jail for 7 years. In fact, it's a long story, but it gives a sign that maybe through negotiations, we can achieve such agreement, because I discovered that more than 100 years we are trying to kill each other, to defeat each other, in spite Israel with the United States of America, with the rest of the world, against the Palestinians. But we forget to die, we still here, but more blood, more pain, more victims. So maybe when we change our way, we can achieve something like such agreement. So everyone normal want to live in a normal situation in peace. So I support this agreement directly. I get married. Then suddenly I have 6 kids. And those kids, they occupied my life. My mission was to protect them, to educate them, to raise them up, especially we have peace now. This is what I thought. In fact, I start to be active in my society in the Palestinian side without any connection with the other side. Again, we need to change our way to achieve the same goal. I don't believe in that time to send a suicide bomber to kill Smadar in Jerusalem is a real message of peace from the Palestinians, the Israelis. Why we kill each other? There is something called the occupation, the Israeli occupation. This is our common enemy. If there is no occupation, we don't need to fight. We don't need to kill each other. For that, I believe in that time, Israelis and Palestinians must come together to end this occupation so we can live a normal life. Until 2002 and 3, I hear in the Israeli media about something called refuseniks, which is ex-Israeli soldiers and officers who refuse to serve in Palestine or the occupied territories because they love Israel, because it's against the Jewish values, because it's against the Zionist values, which is very strange for the Palestinians, by the way. And I wish to meet them. In fact, 2 years later, in 2005, we have the first meeting between 4 Palestinians, ex-prisoners. I was one of them, with 7 ex-Israeli soldiers and officers. Rami's son was one of them. So this is how I get to know this noble enemy back in 2005. And you can imagine the first meeting between the real enemies. We know each other, we hate each other, we don't trust each other. It was the most difficult meeting in my life. It was a long meeting, full of suspicions. We agreed to meet again and again and again for 1 year. We became 300 members from both sides when we discovered that we are the same. It means we want to kill each other to achieve the same thing. We want peace and security. Of course, each one from his point of view. So we decide to create a movement. We call it Combatants for Peace, and we start to struggle and to work together. According to Nelson Mandela, he says, if you want to make peace with your enemy, you need to work with your enemy. Then your enemy become your partner. And this was our goal, to prove that there is a partner for peace in the other side. In fact, 2 years later, in the 16th of January 2007, an Israeli border police shot and killed my 10 years old daughter, Abir, in front of her school from a distance of 15 to 20 meters in her head from the back. She fell down, and 2 days later, she passed away in Hadassah hospital where she born. And where Smadar, you can see them, Abir and Smadar, and where Smadar born and died. Between Abir and Smadar, it's 10 years, but it's the same killer, the same criminal who take off the lives of our beloved daughters. Again, it's our common enemy. It's the Israeli occupation. Of course, 2 hours later, I received my brother Rami and my sister Nurit, his wife. They come with more than 30 Israeli families who stay with me 3 days until Abir pass away. You need to know that it's almost impossible to ask for justice under the occupation, and especially under the Israeli occupation. It's very complicated because unfortunately it's not a crime to kill a Palestinian in the Israeli system. It's not written anywhere, but what the Palestinians claim that they never ever saw an Israeli soldier be punished because he killed a Palestinian. Never ever, except one soldier 5 to 6 years ago in Hebron, because he had been filmed and there is a Jewish Israeli witnesses, so they sent him to jail for a very long time, for 9 months. I met the same victim who killed my daughter after 3.5 years in the Israeli court in Jerusalem. And I said to him, you are not a hero, you are not a warrior, you didn't kill the enemy or the terrorist, you just killed 10 years innocent girl. And if you are proud of what you did, you can enjoy your crime. I don't ask for revenge because I don't take revenge from victims. For me, you are not less victim than your victim. But in any day in your life, if you come to ask me to forgive you, you will find me there. But it's not because of yourself at all. It's because of myself. Because I really love my daughter very much. And because I have another 5 kids. I don't want them to grow up as victims to you. So 2 days after I lost my daughter, in fact, I joined the Parent Circle Families Forum because I know my brother Rami 2 years before. I am familiar with this noble organization, but in my worst dream, I don't want to join this amazing group. In fact, Rami said we are 600 families. Today we are more than 700 families because many families joined after the 7th of October. So our goal is to prove that we can be partners. Remember that we don't need to love each other. We don't even need to like each other. Rami, I still love you, but we need to respect each other. Respect me, my borders, my human right, my right to live and to exist in peace and dignity and social justice. And I will respect yours, and you can enjoy hating me forever. But we prove that we are human beings. We can be a real partners. We can be friends, brothers, and in our case, we can be family. We need to share this land as 1 state or 2 states or 5 states. Otherwise, we will share the same land as 2 big graveyards to our kids, our families, and our people. It's up to us to live side by side on the ground or to share the graveyards under the ground. Thank you very much for listening.
Well, we have a secret agreement between us that all the difficult questions will go to him.
To him.
All the others to me. You can ask any question, political, personal, whatever comes to your head. We know all the answers by heart. Have no mercy. Please go ahead and shoot us.
Well, I will say that I am incredibly touched by the courage that both of you have to, number one, get out of bed every day and go on. I have 3 children. I don't know what I would do.
Don't even try.
No, no, I won't even think about it. So, thank you for that. And thank you both for sharing these incredibly important stories. And, we're so divided. And by the way, before I go on, I want to make sure that our viewers know that you can click the Q&A button at the bottom to put questions there, and both Rami and Bassam will answer them. You can have both of them answer, or you can direct a question to each one. And we're so divided today, and it pains me to know that the pain that happened during the time of the Holocaust and today, and how that hate is able to continue based on things that don't make sense. And so, I really feel like the battle that we're fighting is ignorance. And I'm wondering if you have advice on how, when we see ignorance right in front of us, how can we deal with that?
In fact, there is a very famous saying for Rumi, Jalaluddin Rumi, but this is not my answer. He says, don't argue with the stupid. So the people didn't mix between both of you. This is when you go to make like a battle with someone really stupid. In our case, ignorance, it's like a cancer. This is unfortunately what we are fighting. It's not something, of course it's bad, but you don't blame someone because he don't know, because for the rest of the world, when you say like, I don't know anything about the Holocaust, they said, what? It's like the sun. It's 6 million, but I never hear about them. I never read about them. So why I need to know about them? When I start to know about the Holocaust, even as a Palestinian, I feel kind of, I don't want to say shame, kind of responsibility. How come that I don't know about it? When you ask the Israelis, not the Jewish around the world, the Israelis here in Israel, the Nakba, the catastrophe which happened to the Palestinians in 48. What is the Nakba? They don't know anything about the Nakba because they never learned anything about the Nakba. Yeah, it's normal. So this is why we said, yeah, people sometimes don't agree with us, but they cannot argue with us. This is our story. This is our truth. This is our experience. Maybe they can agree with us or not, how to follow us, but they cannot argue with our stories. We have two narratives. This is our narratives. So I believe Rami always said, you need to teach yourself how to listen. This is the main thing. So sometimes we talk to people, they start to prepare their questions even before we start because they know everything. So even when we answer their question, he insists to ask the question, but I answer you. So he didn't hear me and he didn't listen to me. So I am very happy today that I didn't see any question before we finish in order to know and to learn. Today, no one can say I don't know. You can bring everything to your telephone and know everything and never be stuck in your own narrative, in your own truth, and you don't care about others. If you lose your empathy to the others, it doesn't matter who's the others. I mean here, the enemy. The enemy is exactly like you. If you lost your empathy to the enemy, you need to know that you lost your humanity.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, Bassam, because I think there's sadly a lot of fake news out there. And that's one of the things that we had a program earlier in the year where we looked at how people can tell news is fake from what's real. So I thank you both for sharing your very authentic stories. I don't know if either of you have any advice on how we can look at what is real, what is distorted, what is opinion, fact. How do we all have this tendency of we work with or to befriend people who share our views. And so we don't see the other side. And I really admire both of you for coming together and seeing the other side. Maybe you can talk about how you reconcile that in your own mind to be able to do that.
I think what you told us just now is the basic and the essence of the problem. You are completely blocked to listen to anyone else but yourself. And the whole conflict situation has become a contest, competition of pain. It's like a reality show on television. The world is sitting on the balcony watching those two sides, trying to eliminate each other by showing their pain, showing their wounds, showing their horrific stories, and it's going nowhere because it's the mentality of a football fan. I mean, it's my team. My team is always right. The other teams should be dead. But it's not like this in the real life. And in the real life, we are the majority. I mean, most of the people around the world, the line divides us not between Israelis and Palestinians, and not between Muslims and Jews. It's between the people who want peace and are willing to pay the price of peace, and all the others. And I think we are the vast majority of the people who understand that this situation is abnormal, that we must change it, that we come to a place that we cannot go on thinking the same old way that we thought before the 6th of October. We understand now that history have only one direction. And one direction is, first of all, not violence, ceasefire immediately, returning of hostages and prisoners, and immediately understand that this abnormal situation in which one people is dominating the other is unacceptable, must be changed. We can have one state, as Bassam said, or two states, or 10,000 states. We can have federation or confederation. There are so many countries around the world with so many ethnicities, like the United States, like Belgium, like Canada, like other places, where people live together and respect each other. And I think this is the key word. The word is respect. And you have to be able to respect the guy next to you exactly as you want to be respected. No more and no less. And once you achieve this, all the rest are technicalities. You can redefine the reasons that you are willing to kill for and die for. And you have to do a restart.
I love that. I think the respect is so important. And we're starting to get a couple more questions in, so I want to make sure that we get answers for these. Kathy is asking, do your families support your relationships?
Yes, totally. We are family. I say we are family. It's not me and Rami. You know, we cannot do anything without our wives. They decide this friendship or not. Yes, we are family. They support us totally.
Yeah.
Wondering that another person is asking the question, do you encounter criticism for recognizing the humanity of the enemy? And do some people want you to stop the wonderful work you're doing? And I also think that there's a big difference. I think you mentioned earlier, there's a difference between a Palestinian and Hamas. So maybe you can speak to that a little bit. I'm combining a couple of the questions that I'm seeing.
Who decide that there is a difference between Palestinians and Hamas? Hamas is not Americans and not British. They are Palestinians. Now, this is also another problem. I am not Hamas. I don't support Hamas. But you need to know, and this is part of the education system also, how to receive information. Yeah. The fighters of Hamas who attack Israel on the 7th of October, just remember they were kids, 10 to 20 to 12 years old back in 2014. They grow up in this atmosphere, exactly like today, more than 40,000 until now. So we just invest in more hatred, in more revenge to prepare for the next 7th of October. We say that more than 20 years, me and Rami, in our lectures. We expect to blow up something in our faces all the time. You cannot expect to occupy another people and don't expect resistance. So this is what we are calling for. Now, Imagine, we say that, imagine if there is peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinians. There is no Hamas, there is no Fatah, there is no Islamic Jihad. Israel tried to make peace with Saudi Arabia, with Arab states, with Sudan, with America, but not with the Palestinians. It doesn't work. United States and Israel invested in billions and billions of dollars to build, not to make peace, to build a separation wall, and especially between Gaza and Israel. And you can imagine it fell down in 2 hours. Yes, it's very painful, but this is logic. People under the occupation, they will resist. What we say, it doesn't work. We're just dying. Let us survive together, both Israelis and Palestinians. But not all the Palestinians are me, and not all the Israelis as Rami Elhanan, because there is no hope right now. And we say that Hamas will never defeat Israel. And Israel will never defeat Hamas, even after 1,000 years of. But who's paying the price? Believe me, the women and the children who are the victims of this war since more than 76 years until now. The conflict didn't start on the 7th of October, decades before. We need to be honest with ourselves and to say, to end the occupation, I promise you, there is no resistance. We are not going to kill each other because there is no occupation. We want to live exactly like the Israelis, to raise up our kids. As long as the Palestinians under the occupation, there is no security for the Israelis. We need to be free. Then the Israelis will be free. Both of us, victims to this occupation, and our kids, our families from both sides need or must deserve to live free. And it's like a joke, but always I said it, haven't the Jewish people suffering enough? It's enough. The Palestinians and the Israelis, it's really enough.
I would like to add one sentence to it, which I think it's important. You know, we are under a lot of criticism and pressure, and not too many people like what we are saying, because most of the Israelis tend to look at the reality through the very keyhole of the last event. And they are incapable of to rise up above the and understand the general context of things. And this is also true for the Western society as a whole. And I think it's part of the self-education that you need to know to understand the roots of the conflict. And as Bassam said, you cannot expect to put 2 million people in a box, close the cover, throw out the key, and expect that nothing will happen. It's illogical. And I will tell you one last thing important about Hamas. I have no sympathy for Hamas. Hamas are the killers of my daughter. But I will talk to the devil itself in order to save one drop of blood. Hamas is part of the Palestinian people. They will not be erased. They will not disappear. There is no victory after a disaster in such scale. You don't wake up in the morning and things have changed. They will not change. We need to talk about the elephant in the center of the room. And this elephant is very clear and it unites most of the people around the world, the understanding that it cannot go on. And this is the most important thing.
I couldn't agree more. It's conversation, you know, we have to, and I'm curious, can you describe when you first met the two of you?
Me and Bassam?
Yes.
Well, in fact, I don't want to remember, but it's okay.
I mean, you know, there had to be differences, and you know, you've come together in such a beautiful way. And how were you able to bridge those differences? I think that's something.
Briefly, it was back like in 2005. Rami's son, Professor Rami Elhanan now, he was one of the co-founders of Combatants for Peace. And he's an amazing guy, simply. So Rami joined him in the next meeting. He come to say those Palestinians. In fact, since we met, I remember Rami fell in love with me, which was, you know, he's a very noble enemy. We find ourselves have a lot in common. We care about Israelis and Palestinians alike. They are human beings. We share the same values. We directly, in fact, we became a very close friends. So they invite us to their home, and after that, we invite them to our home. And we never fought. I believe he's scared from me until today. We never fought. Simply, we have our own state. He decides sometimes if I am the president or the prime minister, I give him this, you know, because he belonged to the chosen people, simply because we respect each other. It's very simple. And for that, we say to everyone, Israelis, Palestinians, Jewish, against, pro, from the river to the sea, everyone must be free. This is our slogan.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because that slogan has become politicized, and it
Even I believe when they say Palestine must be free, for some of them maybe they don't understand, but for us, free from the occupation. But you know, for the Israelis or the Jewish, it means there is no Israel, which is not true. But to make it clear, not anti-Semitism, not Holocaust denials, which the tools unfortunately used, everyone should be free, Israelis and Palestinians and everyone.
right. So you know that brings up the question, because that if you take that phrase literally, we all understand what it means, but it has become politicized, and there are people who are using that phrase and others to mean destroying all Jewish people. And
This
how
is
do we deal with that? What's your advice on how we deal with that?
I will tell you. This is what we talked about. Is the center of the problem, and it's called ignorance.
Mhm.
People who says from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, and don't consider that there are other people, are the same as the first Zionists who said a land without a people for a people without a land. You know, this is one of the basic slogans of Zionism and one of the roots of this conflict, because there were people here. And the basic message is that we are here and we are here to stay, the both sides. The Palestinians will not be able to throw the Israelis to the sea, and the Israelis will not be able to throw the Palestinians to the desert. We are doomed to live here forever together as one state or two states or 10,000 states. But we are here, no side will disappear. And this is the essence of the problematic of this slogan of from the river to the sea. And we were interviewed in the national television of Norway about a month ago, and we put this forward because the fighting, we cannot allow ourselves to be hostages by the hands of the radicals of both sides. All those sides who said everything is only me, they are not part of the game. There is no one to talk to, and there is nothing to talk about. But we are the majority, and we say everyone should be free, and everyone should agree to it.
Yeah. So what's your recommendation on it? You know, people are politicizing words. They're taking things out of context. What advice do you have for how to deal with that?
You know, we said always, like, we don't ask you to be pro-Palestinians or to be pro-Israelis. We demand of you to be pro-peace and sorry, and justice. So what's the meaning of that?
Yeah.
Don't take sides and don't keep silence. Now, Palestinians under the occupation, and now we are in a massacre. You cannot deny that. 40,000 people. It means you need to raise up your voice against the genocide or the mass killing or whatever you call it. On the other hand, Israel have the right to exist, of course. Israel have the right to defend itself, yes. but they have no right to occupy another people. So it means never keep silence, never. And don't take side. It means to be pro-Israelis and you don't care about the Palestinians. Or the opposite, to be pro the Palestinians and you don't care about the Israelis. Here you import our conflict to your society and create hatred between Jews and Muslims. Now, I am saying that not as a Palestinian, just to be clear. I will talk about the anti-Semitism. Please, I know exactly what that means. It's a tool to shut you down. It means to create the Israeli occupation. It's anti-Semitism? No, it's create anti-Semitism to prevent, criticize Israel. And for my Jewish brothers and sisters, I know what you face. I know your fear, and especially even in the States, even in Germany today, in France. But this is the factory of creating anti-Semitism. It's the Israeli behavior, and you don't responsible for this behavior. So be careful, and even the Jewish and the Israeli students who lead the students' revolution, let me say, to raise up their voice against the massacre in Gaza. Can you say them they are self-hating Jews? They are anti-Semitism? They are Holocaust denials? No, they are the moral voice of the Jewish nation. It's the opposite. Never repeat what happened to you. And we don't need to repeat the history. Never again. And the Jewish voice is very, very important, not for the Palestinians, for themselves, for the values of Judaism.
What do you think is the best way for people to educate themselves? I mean, ignorance is clearly the biggest enemy. So what is the best way for people to get educated? How did you both educate yourselves?
You know, for
Well,
me,
it's
you need to meet the other side. Otherwise, you will I read about the Holocaust, 6 million, until I met, for example, Yitzhak Elhanan, Rami's father. Here you meet the Holocaust. Here you start to understand. But just to read from far away, it's very difficult. Sorry, Rami.
No, I think absolutely you're right. And I think don't let yourself be drawn into this futile argument, which there are no winners in this kind of an argument. I mean, when you see everything in black and white, and you are the right and the other side is wrong, then there is no need for discussion, because there is no discussion. And I think the most important thing is you have to educate yourself, and it's very easy today to educate yourself according to your own values, according to your beliefs. I mean, you can choose the channels that you want to choose in order to educate yourself. And then you should come with the ability to listen. This is the most important thing. You don't eliminate the other side. You don't erase the other side. You listen to the arguments, you put your arguments, not in order to win the argument, in order to have a fruitful discussion on a basic of mutual interests, of mutual agreements.
Just two words before we finish, just to give some hope. You know, always I said that the Palestinians, they didn't kill 6 million Israelis. And the Israelis didn't kill 6 million Palestinians.
Yet.
And there is an Israeli ambassador in Berlin. And there is a German ambassador in Tel Aviv. 4 years after 6 million victims. What's that mean? Simply, we can do it. The level of blood and hatred, it didn't arrive to 6 million. We will do it. It's not written anywhere that we're going to continue killing each other forever. But we need to believe that we are the same. We deserve to live, and we born to live and not to kill each other. No one is God. No one is chosen above the other. Just we need to respect each other as human beings. This is our way. This is what we believe. This is our values. For that, we see Americans, Italians, Israelis, Palestinians as human beings.
And I would like to add just one last sentence. There is a book. This is the book. It's called The Paragon by the Irish-American writer. His name is Callum McCann. The name of the book is A Paragon, and it basically tells our story. It revolutionized our message. It tells our story in the most amazing way. He was unbelievably capable of touching our pain and telling our stories in a way that is unimaginable. It was translated to 17 languages. It won many, many, many prizes. Steven Spielberg bought the rights to make a film out of this book, and I hope Brad Pitt will agree to play Bassam. I recommend that you will read it.
We will. What we'll do is we will send an email out after this program to everyone who is registered, because we know that some people register so that they can see the recording later, and we will send a link to the book in the follow-up so that we can recommend that to everyone. I cannot thank you both enough. I cannot even fathom the pain that you have had to deal with, and you're heroes to me. I mean, the way that you have been able to rise above and see each other as people, the mutual respect, and just there were so many messages in this program that I think are so important for people to hear. We've got to start listening with respect and listening to listen, and that's the best way forward. And those are the lessons that we take from the Holocaust, is that we've got to find that mutual respect. It's propaganda that was such a big factor in the Holocaust, and we've got to really listen with an open heart and an open mind. So thank you both so much for
Thank
being
you very much.
and
thank you, Lisa. Thank you for having us.
Of course, and I hope that there's something that we can do again. I hope that this is not the last time that our paths cross.
With pleasure.
And to everybody who attended the program today, we thank you for being here, and we will send a link of the recording. This program has been recorded. We will send it to you, and we hope that you will send it to several of your friends so that this message can be shared far and wide. We do have another program coming up on June the 5th, where we will be welcoming Trisha Prabhu, who is a young woman of, I believe, 23 years old, who is going to talk about how hate is portrayed on digital media. So how we can look at the digital platform and rethink the organization she started is called Rethink. So how we can rethink the way that we behave in the media. So thank you both again. Thank you all who attended again. That wraps up our program for today. And we do look forward to continuing the conversation. You both own a piece of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
nice
you.
day.
Bye, Achi.
Bye يا حبيبي. Bye, bro.